I also wanted to look at Revelation 14, specifically 9 through 11. And by the way, if you're not familiar with this format that I'm using here, this is called blueletterbible.org. It's a really, really good resource. It's a really good study Bible. It has a lot of things. If you're on the King James, which you can pick up here, you can click the Strong's button, and it'll give you all the Strong's references for every verse. So it's a really, really great tool, and if you want to check it out, it again is blueletterbible.org, so make sure to check that out. Now, why is this so important? Why should we worry about this? Why do Christians take the mark of the beast so seriously? Well, this is why right here. Revelation 14, 9 through 11 says, "And the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If any man worships the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day nor night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." That's why we take it so seriously, because that's a terrible fate. And part of this whole equation that gets looked over too is, in order to accept the mark of the beast, you must worship the beast. You must worship the beast and his image to accept the mark. So nobody's going to be tricked into getting the mark of the beast. Nobody's going to have to wonder, is this the mark of the beast or is this? You'll have to worship the beast in order to get this thing. And so that is why we take this so seriously. That is the worst fate imaginable. So of course we would want to warn people about it. Keep your eyes out for this type of anything that is remotely close to mark of the beast technology. Just, it's best to not have anything to do with it. Why take the chance? Why take the chance when your eternity is at risk? With looking at this prophecy, I wanted to look at this story because Epstein has been in the news for quite a while, and it's kind of sad because of the strange circumstances surrounding his death. More people know and remember Epstein now based on that and not based on his horrible crimes. Not based on the sex trafficking and all the stuff with children and just all that disgusting stuff. Now what people pay attention to more than that is that he was likely murdered and he likely did not commit suicide. And that's what people are focusing on. If it stays that way, that's what he's going to be remembered for. And he should be remembered for his vile acts against children and people. But a little known fact about Epstein is that he was a big-time transhumanist. Big time. He is one of those ones that would have fallen in that category that the prophecy talked about those who accepted the mark of the beast, had he lived in that era. If he lived in the era of the mark of the beast, he would have been first in line. I mean, he was actively trying to get this going. So there was a story that recently broke about it. This is from oldthinkernews.com, and lots of places. Yahoo News has covered the story as well. But the title is John Brockman's Edge Dinner hosted Epstein, Minsky, meetings between big tech heads pushed transhuman future. So it says, Brockman wrote in 1969, "Man was nothing more than a model, a technique. It is necessary to construct a new model." Jeffrey Epstein's deep involvement with transhumanism was briefly reported by the New York Times. His involvement was characterized as an isolated, bizarre fascination, but the community he was involved in is deadly serious about their goals, and they absolutely are. And again, a lot of them will use this veneer of humanitarianism. We just want to cure cancer. We don't want people to die. What's wrong with that? Well, nothing's wrong with that, but how is this technology going to be abused? Because for Christians, and really what should be for everybody, but for Christians, the source of all that stuff, the source of eternal life, the source of healing, all of that stuff lies in Jesus Christ. So what transhumanism is, it's not so much about curing diseases and curing death and all that, but it's based on a fear of death. It's based on a fear of these things. We Christians, if we have a relationship with Jesus, we know that there is no sting of death. When you die, you're still safe because you're with God. You're safer than you are in the world, that's for sure. So transhumanists, and I do believe that many of them do see transhumanism as a humanitarian effort, But again, we have to think deeply about this stuff, and we have to ask ourselves, how could this technology be abused? How could this technology be used against people groups or religions or people who don't fall in line with the program? Well, I'll tell you how. You read the book of Revelation, you can see how. And as we're going to see in a minute in the Zach Drew interview, this stuff is being implemented in U.S. policies now in ways that will shock you. So you stay tuned for that. But this continues on and says, as reported by the New York Times, Epstein gained access to the scientific community through John Brockman, a little-known but highly influential agent based in New York. In 2000, the Wall Street Journal ran the headline, "At the Growing Billionaires Dinner, Tech Stars Move to Grown-Ups Table." The Edge Billionaire Dinner has hosted all of the biggest names in big tech: Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Evan Williams, Bill Joy, Larry Page, and others. Yahoo Finance reports that the group is deleting posts from its website about Epstein following revelations of his sex trafficking. Epstein is still listed as a guest in 2000 on the Edge Dinner website. Also listed as a 2001 guest is Marvin Minsky, accused of sex with a trafficking victim. John Brockman himself sought transhumanist goals. His 1969 book, Afterwards, foreshadows the transhumanist philosophy of later years, which envisions man merging with machines. So Brockman writes, quote, "Man was nothing more than a model, a technique. It is necessary to construct a new model. The human delusion lies in the belief that the human being is the basis of reality and the final goal of evolution," end quote. The Edge Billionaire meetings have discussed the future of genetic engineering, biocomputation, and redesigning humanity for a transhuman era. Doesn't that provide you with comfort that these are the types of people that are making decisions that will shape the future that we all have to live in? Doesn't that give you a good sense of comfort to know that that people like Jeffrey Epstein are making these decisions? And I'm not saying every transhumanist is exactly like him, but he was one of them. So continuing on, it says, physicist Freeman Dyson described the individuals leading this group as having godlike power to create entirely new species on Earth in a new age of wonder. He describes them as, quote, "a new generation of artists writing genomes as fluently as Blake and Byron wrote verses, might create an abundance of new flowers and fruit and trees and birds to enrich the ecology of our planet," end quote. Because what God has done for us and what God has given us isn't good enough. We're spoiled brats. We don't want God's design. We want our own design because we're following in the footsteps of fallen angels and demons. That's exactly what the fallen angels wanted, a creation in their own image. And that's what led to Genesis 6 and the flood right after that. And we as human beings are following in those footsteps. At least these human beings are. I mean, I can't speak for everybody, and I certainly don't speak for Christians because we tend to reject that as much as possible. Notorious author Michael Wolff wrote in 2000 for New York Mag regarding the elite conference circles. Quote, "Conferences are to the technology business what weddings are to the Godfather movies. This is the time for the extended family to come together to pay its respects to the Dons and Capos, and a time for people who want to be associated with the family to come and be introduced," end quote. So as revealed in the 2005 book, The Google Story, Google founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin met with Craig Venter, credited with creating synthetic life, at the Edge Billionaires meeting. Also present were representatives from the U.S. State Department, Bill Gates, Anne Wojcicki, Bill Joy, and dozens of other tech company CEOs and scientists. The authors write, not long after the dinner in California, Brin and Page teamed up with Venter. The biologist gained access to Google's immense computing power and personnel. Epstein is far from a lone wolf actor in the transhumanist movement. The powerful individuals he rubbed shoulders with shared his longing for a transhuman future. So there you have it. People like Epstein, these billionaires, these tech elites, are making decisions that will affect the future for all of us. And again, if you wonder what that future looks like, just look at the book of